What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Jeramie of The Absence. Thank you so much for your time today, man. It's great for you to be here.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. We're really excited to get the brand new Absence album, Coffinized. Do you consider this just picking up where you left off after A Gift for the Obsessed, or did you think that this is almost kind of like a new start for The Absence in a way?
I would say it probably be a 50-50 of it's a bit of a new start, and it's also a very, very familiar ground. Man, I think where a lot of guys maybe they go wrong is they start to want to explore a lot and and they very far from the course. I just literally put From Your Grave in my headphones, and I put sorry about that.
Mhm.
I put From Your Grave in my headphones, and I put Riders of the Plague in my headphones. I went to the gym. I listened to that. I rode my bike. I listened to that. I was really trying to channel whatever crap that I had going on at, let's see, I was 21 when we did From Your Grave, and I was 23 when we did Riders. So whatever was going on in my headspace, I was really did my best to bring that level, because I know that that's what folks want to hear. You know, they want to hear that stuff. So I did my best to channel that. And I think that Taylor, unbeknownst to him, wrote some of the best stuff that he's ever written for any of our projects, because we have a bunch. But he did great, man. I think he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Do you feel that the first single that you released, Choirs of Sickness, serves as maybe like a good representation of what the entirety of Coffin Eyes will sound like, or is that just the first piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, it's the first piece of the puzzle. This whole thing, we wrote enough to truncate down to a solid 9. We were in our mind's eye, we were going to do 9 with like maybe an instrumental or an interlude or something like that. We had never intended on having so many songs. And as it just kind of came down the pipe, we got to the cutting room floor, to so to speak, and we were like, well, I mean, I love everything, and like this all sounds like one unit, and there's like it takes you on a trip here and it brings you here. So it all made the cut, which is kind of cool. It's one of those things where we're like, well, all right, we got them all here, so fuck it, everybody gets it.
Yeah, I feel like for this album, because there are some death metal albums and brutal metal albums where you could kind of like approach it from different angles, and some are more shuffle friendly, as I like to say, than the others. But I feel like for this particular
Yeah.
album, you need to start off with Coffin Eyes and end with Faith in Uncreation. Like, it almost seems like that this is like the album that you need to listen to in order and not get sentimental towards certain songs. Just go all in, full in.
Hell yeah. And Jamie's storytelling, because he does a bit of that. So if you sit and you read in between the lines and you read the lines, there's a certain mood that he's setting the entire time, which is pretty cool, which is something unlike we've done for any of our previous records. The previous ones kind of were just haphazardly thrown together and just kind of like, melded, made some great death metal records, or melodic death metal, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So Jamie was kind of like more in the sort of a concept album mind frame with making this. Would you consider Coffin Eyes to be somewhat of a concept album?
I would for sure say it definitely is. It's a story of light to dark, like sunrise, sunset type of deal. You'll have to get him on another episode to wrap off about that, because he has a laundry list of realities for this record. So, which is pretty awesome. He was incredibly heavily involved in this go around, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely consider, and this is just my personal opinion from the album, I do consider it to be like a standout of the Absence catalog. I feel like that, like it has all the elements that we would appreciate from Your Grave or Riders of the Plague, Enemy Unbound, etc. But like, I think that this was almost taking everything that made the Absence, and just upped it to infinity.
Oh, cool, man! Awesome. I'm glad you feel way, and that's aim for carrying forward. So that's really cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you kind of like going back, because you mentioned also that everybody in the Absence is in a bunch of other bands, including like including you. I mean, you played with so many different bands. Would you say that all the members playing with different projects maybe help influence the Absence in a way, maybe allows you to bring in some newer stuff with each album, or even to your live presence?
Yeah, I think so. That just happens naturally. We are who our closest 10 friends are, is what they say. So, I brought in, there's D beats on this new Absence record, which, if you're a fan, you know that there hasn't really been any kind of D beats in the previous records. So, that's new. We've always had little blasty sections. So, that hasn't changed. And, Mike's basing on this he's such a talented bass player. You watch that dude play with Soulfly, let's just say, and he's up there, giving it everything, giving you a rock and roll show, which is cool. And a lot of that came through on this record, especially I mixed the album. So I went ahead and oversaw just how much of all of us got to be in the zone, which is cool. Which before our bass has kind of always been just like on Riders was a presence. It was on Enemy Unbound. It was just kind of like a presence, like a low end. Like this one is articulate. You can hear what Mike's doing. He's doing all types of stuff, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think a lot of outside influences did make their way in. I mean, that's just natural. That's that's just being a person.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you mix the album too, and I've always said that a mixing console is as much of an instrument as the drums, as the guitar, as anything. I mean,
Yeah.
And this was your first time mixing the album too?
This is my first Absence mix. This is not my first mix by any means. As a matter of fact, I did all the pre-production for Riders of the Plague, so that was back in 2006. So I did all of our stuff. That's essentially when I started my career in mixing. So that was many, many moon ago. Mm-hmm. So this is a long time coming to get to this point.
When you're almost mixing the album, do you almost kind of have to like put your knowledge as a drummer behind and kind of just focus on that, or having sort of like a rhythmic background and a rhythmic contribution that actually helps the mixing style in a way?
Well, I mean, it definitely lends itself to my style. I'm a drummer first, and I also play guitar, I play bass, I sing, I do all of these things. So I kind of want to hear like everything whenever I mix. I want to hear a nice even mix. Like some of my favorite stuff isn't incredibly drum heavy, even though some of my favorite stuff is drum heavy, like Gojira or Meshuggah. It's very rhythmic and heavier, old Sepultura. But then again, the Absence isn't that band, so the drums really can't afford to sound like that. They could be heavy and in your face and a solid unit, but it can't necessarily be like a Gojira. I mean, I guess it could, but then maybe it's a different band, so then I guess I'd have to start a new band.
I could easily see you doing a tour with Gojira. I mean, I remember watching the first time and only time I saw the Absence so far was on the Deicide Origin Jungle Rot tour.
Man, that was such a good tour, dude. Oh,
that was
such a good tour.
That was the most satanic weekend in New York City history too, because the day after Deicide played, the next day everybody was at Dark Funeral and Belphegor.
Okay.
So like it was.
Yes.
I wrote an article. The weekend Satan took over New York City, and it was in the
Perfect.
beginning of June, so the 6th month of the year. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
That was amazing, dude. That was such a good tour. And yeah, I remember we were following that other tour. We were kind of. That happens when you're out on the road. You'll be crisscrossing some other tour that's going on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but like I always thought that you really opened up that show you really came in guns blazing. You made Deicide, Origin, and Jungle Rot fans your own that fucking day, because I saw the pit opening up.
Wow.
It was insane.
Thank you.
Yeah, and, it's always a party in New York City when Joey's around too. So.
When who?
Joey.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now,
he's a big sweetheart, man. We love him. We love him.
Yeah, and he's in about 75 different bands at this point.
Yeah, 100%, man. He's everywhere. Yeah, well, with a talent like that, I mean, it's hard not to be.
Yeah, definitely. And as a drummer, does it always help to have music before you lay down the rhythm and the beat, or do you sometimes have like a whole drum pattern written, and that maybe the band would write over that?
Sometimes that happens. Not particularly for the Absence, but we've done that for Taylor and I have done that with our band Gore Gang. And we've also done that with our other band, Inhuman Condition. I've actually just went in and just played drums, and then he wrote the guitar parts around that. And the way we do it with Gore Gang is Taylor plays drums in that band. We're trying to mix it up, trying to be creative here. He plays drums first, and he creates the foundation for everything. And then we just go back and write guitars over it, which is pretty sweet to write like that. So sometimes I do have a beat in my head. Sometimes I have something that I want to work in, like a lick or something like that. A lot of the times, especially with the Absence, it kind of is. My palette for what I can play is it's restricted to about, X amount of drum beats in there. I can do a thrash beat, I can do a downbeat, I can do a dikachaka, I can do an Amon Amarth, I can do so like I only have so much. That's why I've always tried to do some other stuff that's, a bit out of the box, like even back on like Dead and Gone, like the bridge for that is, well, I guess they're verses. The verses for that is really like a Police drum beat, which is real weird, man. That's not like your
Yeah, that's like Stuart Copeland playing for Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah, 100%. It's so sometimes I have a lick that I want to throw in, and I'll throw it in, and then now it's cool because I've done that. So now I can like harken back to it and go like, oh wow, like that's like that, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Really, it's just trying to be creative. Just play, just have a good time.
Yeah.
If we're not having fun, we're not having fun. Then what are we doing?
Yeah, definitely. And we're not going to talk shit by any stretch of the means, but if somebody presents you a song arrangement with no drums written on it, how off time is it sometimes, or how out of rhythm is it?
Well, if it's from Taylor, never. Yeah. It's always, I'm actually blessed to work with really great guitar players. Whether it's with Jeff from Venom, Mansis, he sends like some of the best guitars to track to. They're like so tight and they're so great. Everything is very well organized and put together. And that's the same thing with Taylor. Taylor is of the same school. As a matter of fact, Taylor and I work together so much. It's like the easiest thing. It sounds really difficult having like all these bands and projects, but it's really not. When your workflow is under check, everything kind of just falls in place, and then you can just be creative. Like I'm in a place where I can just rip freely, and that's great. I get good guitar players, so I don't often get cruddy tracks. So I guess I'll have to pass on that one.
All right. Well, in order to get like that creative energy and to get that inspiration, do you find it easier maybe to come up with new ideas when you're in the company of your bandmates and you're in the company of your other members, or, isolation being the source of creativity for what it is? Do you find it maybe easier to lay down drum parts or even mix or do anything when you're more kind of like alone in your own element?
As far as like creating, man, it's really nice to even just vibe off other humans, and that whole hive mentality that us humans have, which I'm a believer in that. I don't know about John Q. Public, but I am. So like my wife is an incredibly talented photographer, videographer, painter, man, the list, mother, the list is really crazy. She's a keeper for sure. But she had a buddy of hers who is also a painter, and this buddy, her name is Becky Bukes, and she is a local to Tampa artist, and she does fantastic murals. She's such an accomplished artist herself. She had come up like 3 or 4 weeks back, or maybe it was about a month and a half. Sorry, she came about a month and a half ago, and we. Everybody just painted. It was sort of like an artist retreat. They painted. Taylor was doing digital art, and I started creating some stuff on my laptop. I started making T-shirts, and I started designing some artwork stuff and designing this and just being really creative with Photoshop. And like the whole house was kind of buzzing with this creative vibe, which was, no one bought it from the store, no one went to Hobby Lobby and picked up the creative vibe. It was literally just around, and everybody was afflicted by it. And we all were completely affected. So it's cool to work in a group setting. It's really cool. I like collaborating. I like vibing and jamming with people. I grew up jamming with my dad. That's how I started playing drums. Was my father used to play guitar, and And at 2, I started playing drums. And by the time I was 4, 5, 6, I was really holding down drum beats, and we would jam all the time. And I just ripped with him. My brother was a drummer as well, and we all would just play and play and play and play. So I kind of like working in a group, and I don't mind being alone either and working, especially, especially given how our society is functioning. It seems to be spiraling out of control. So I don't mind some solace. So I guess again, it would be like a 50-50 for me. I could go either way. I prefer both. So I guess is.
And it's funny you mentioned that too, because I've always thought that a metal show, it's not just a fun live experience, but it is also like a creative experience. Because 9 times out of 10, if you meet somebody in the audience, they play an instrument themselves, or they have their own band, or they are a blogger, or do some sort of work in the metal community, and you see on how just like going to a show that the creative energy of the band kind of rubs off on the audience, and it could inspire them in a way. I'm a painter myself, so I always go home and paint after a concert. And
okay, killer. Yeah.
So like I really do see that there is a creative energy that both the band feeds off of the crowd and the crowd feeds off of the band.
Sure. I mean, I feel that when I go to shows, half the time I'll go watch somebody and I'm like, I want to play a show, or, oh man, I want to go play drums. Power Trip really was able to fully inspire that in me. Like I watched him right before, rest in peace, right before Riley passed, and they were in Tampa, and I went and watched them. And man, I went home the next morning and wrote a song on just drums. There we go. I wrote a song on just drums. I was like, give me this metronome, and let's go to this metronome speed after, I think, 16, 20 bars, something like that. I was like, let's go to this. Let's bump up. I was like, then let's pull it back down to here, and then let's bump back up for the end, So I went in and I just wrote these drums, and that song became Tarantula, which will be the first single that we release for Inhuman Condition, which that comes out on the 27th, I think, of this month.
Awesome.
So that one was all totally inspired by Power Trip. So if someone hears and go, wow, this sounds like Power Trip, be like, fuck yeah, man. Because those dudes brought an energy, and that caused me to be like vibing on that. Now, how cool is that? And that's why I think anybody plays music anyways, is to be inspired and to just create and express oneself in whatever means possible, whether you're painting, whether you're doing anything, whether you're creating digitally, whether you're, hell, man, people create with numbers in like Excel. So
yeah,
creativity's everywhere.
Yeah, and you led me perfectly into the next question. I have 2 more questions for you, but when it comes to playing live, is there maybe like a similar energy that you channel into your live presence as you do when you are songwriting or when you are in the studio, or do you consider a live show and studio mode to almost be completely 2 separate mind frames, or 2 completely separate forms of energy?
Yeah, I think they're 2 separate forms of energy, because you can feed off of, what you're getting. And then you're also not worried about being, you're worried about being tight and precise, but you're also not worrying about that. And you're worrying about vibing with the tune and just going somewhere. At least I do. I am concerned with where it's taking me and how that creates and how that transposes to whoever may be listening.
Yeah, okay. And because I always thought that since you're behind the kit in both presence, talking mainly with the Absence and the live show for the Absence, it almost seems, I would imagine that you're looking at the same cymbals, the same snare, you're sitting in the same sort of seat, that maybe it kind of like ties it together. I always thought that like with a front man, you kind of have to practice crowd interaction and stage presence and all that.
Yep.
But like I wasn't sure if that maybe as a drummer, if maybe it is kind of like the similar thing.
I really like to interact with fans as much as possible. I mean, I'm always looking around, because I can kind of set my mind to autopilot. I mean, it is incredibly difficult, but I can set my mind to autopilot, and I can look around and enjoy the scenery and enjoy the song and get into it the same way. Like, I mean, we've played some of these songs. From Your Grave came out in 2005, so we've played some of these songs a long time now, and they're still fun to me. I still have a good time. I liked what I wrote then. I enjoyed the process then. I liked being in the band then. So no part of it was kind of like, it's so hard that like it's impossible, and I'm not back there, especially with the Absence. I'm not back there going like 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 4, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2. You know, I'm not. It's not some complex thing where it's like, okay, must not forget. You know, it's thrash beats and half times, and you know, you get to see people body banging and having such a good time, which is awesome. You know, I mean, I'm a fan too, so I go to shows. Like I said, man, you know who got me when I saw him was Nails. I watched Nails live. I even told my wife before I left, I have way too many black shirts. I'm like, I am not coming home with another T-shirt tonight. And damn it, after I watched them play, I was headbanging so hard. I was almost in the mosh pit, you know, and for a dad of 5, you know, that's pretty extreme. I was almost moshing, and I'm like, no, maybe not. I was on the sidelines moshing, you know, and I had to go buy a shirt. You know, it was just the fucking energy that they brought. So I like that. I enjoy that from shows. I mean, I got my braces put through my bottom lip when I saw Pantera when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
Some guy with that all over print Slayer shirt with the big green demon, he fucking elbowed me right in my face. I'll never forget, but it was one of the best shows ever because it was like the fucking breakdown and domination. I mean, how do you not lose your shit during that? How do you not
I never got
lose your mind?
I never got to see Pantera. I was not to make you feel old, but I was 7 years old when they broke up, so
It's all good. I don't feel old. I feel mega fortunate. I saw him in '97, and I was very young. I was 15.
yeah.
But I grew up in a rock and roll household, and my sister took me with her husband, and her husband played in a band called Tear, and they still are a melodic power rock band. Ralph Santola used to always hang around because he was buddies with that whole circle, and that's kind of how I started getting introduced into, you know, that scene was through those guys, and they took me to see Pantera when I was 15. So
That's awesome.
rockin'
15
friggin' roll.
15 was the age when I went to my first concert, but it was Disturbed.
Awesome.
It was Disturbed, Killswitch, Lacuna Coil, and Chimera. So
Okay, hell yeah, great. Man, that drummer for Disturbed is amazing. Mike Wengren,
oh my god,
talented motherfucker.
dude, that guy's insane.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Great. What a timepiece, you know. He's got a hard job, man. He's got a hard job.
Well, the famous saying, "Your drummer sucks, your band sucks." So
Yeah. Yes. I just said that the other day. I was hanging out with some friends of mine. I was like, yeah, if the drummer sucks, the whole band sucks, right? And a guitar player guy for a band, you know, he goes, you know, I just don't think I agree. And I'm like, I know you wouldn't agree. I was like, but, you know,
fuck up
you
the
get
beat.
a real junky drummer, then
Fuck up the beat on purpose one time, and then he'll know exactly what you mean.
Amen.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you, I saved the most difficult question for last. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Going back to songwriting, how do you know when a song is done?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and quote Peter Jackson, because they say if you don't have something good to say, just go out on a quote from someone else. And that's nothing is ever perfect. You just run out of time.
Okay. Better quote than the songs never finish, it's only abandoned quote, because I'm so sick of hearing that as the answer. But that's
okay.
All right. That's a good.
Nothing's ever finished. You just run out of time. You know, you get to a point where you're like, okay, we're moving on.
All right. Fair enough.
And Taylor and I have a joke. We always say, like let's say we just finished this Absence record, and then I got a new something or other, or I found a new technique of doing something, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have. And we go, well, there's always the next record. So we say that about everything, you know, so much so that our kids even say it, you know, well, my kids, but you know, he's Uncle Taylor to them. So, so the kids will say, oh, there's always the next record, you know, so that's for anything.
That's a good motivation, because you know, I think starting an album with no ideas has got to be deteriorating as all hell. So, you know, remembering something good, you know, always keep the record button on.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah,
and it usually is around these parts.
Yeah, always keep the record button on. The worst thing that happens is that you delete it.
Yep, that's it. Amen. I would say definitely delete that from some kind of monster, Lars's dad.
Fair enough.
He was talking about Saint Anger. It was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, and going back to what we said about drummers too, with that snare sound. Oh my god.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey,
The
He did
memes,
it. It's so talked about. So
yeah, the memes for that album are just they never get old. I can look at those memes all day.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Poor guy. Poor guy. He knew what he was doing though. He's a smart motherfucker, that
yeah,
guy. Lars
definitely,
is very intelligent.
definitely, and an art collector too, and I love his collection. So,
Pretty intense.
yep. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else? Obviously, thanks to this certain bullshit virus that shall not be named. Obviously, live shows aren't at the forefront at the moment, but obviously, when all this shit lets up, is there a chance you'll bring the Absence out on the road and hit up New York City and play some of this new material off of Coffinized?
Oh, 180%. 180, 2,000%, let's say. Yeah, we'll be out on the road as soon as everything returns to some bit of normalcy, which it's kind of popping back. So we'll see. I'm very optimistic. I'm getting my shot. I think Wednesday actually. So I got my shot Wednesday.
Oh,
So
congrats!
I'll do my part, and let's do it.
Congrats!
Let's get back to life, man.
Yeah, I already know, and I'm waiting to see which band does it when they do the Wall of Death. It's like, all right, Pfizer people on one side, Moderna people on the other side. That's gonna be something. Johnson and Johnson people in the fucking middle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, you're onto stuff, man. You gotta get Zetro to hear that, and then Exodus should be the one to execute that. That should be them.
Fair enough. Or any band that I think Hypocrisy would be a good band for it. I mean, think about how many great band
Yep.
names are going to come at this. I already know there's going to be a band called The Susceptibles. There's already going to be a band called Super Spread. There's going to be a band like
Yeah. Hell yeah.
watch another subgenre come out and just say pandemic metal. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, you might be onto something.
yeah, it's probably some obscure genre on Metal Archives that has like 3 bands on it. So
Yeah, man. But I mean, shoegaze. I was like, isn't this just doom?
I love shoegaze though. So yeah, but
Super, super crazy name. Like it's like I play shoegaze. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
all these again. My favorite is where somebody just says a word and has the word core at the end of that word, and then you go on Wikipedia.
That's all
to
you
look up,
need.
yeah, and then you look up on Wikipedia, and there's like 2 bands in that entire genre. It never gets old.
You have to send me some. I'd like to check it out.
Nintendo Core, look that one up.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But thank you so much, Jeramie. Everybody, we are here with Jeramie of The Absence. Be sure to check out the brand new album Coffinized coming out very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.